Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger. And up next, we're talking about the closeout of the preseason and roster construction. Do me a quick favor, hit like. If it is your first time checking out the GM, hit subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's go. So, tonight, man, the Baltimore Ravens take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the closeout of the 2023 preseason. And I don't really know what to expect from this game tonight. I don't know if any starters will play. I hope not. I really don't care if Lamar Jackson plays. Um, in fact, I hope he doesn't. Um, I think that we have 2 weeks after tonight's game in order to get that starting offense ready, where all of the plays are accessible at that time. I think. Um, there's nothing to prove tonight by Lamar Jackson playing at all. I know he said he wanted to play, but I think that he could certainly wait to Houston and still find his footing in this offense. And that's not to say that Houston's not a good team and that Houston won't be up for the challenge. I know that a lot of people try to make that assessment that Houston is going to be like a preseason game, but I don't think so at all. I think Houston's going to be a tough battle. I think they're going to come out. They're going to be tough. They're going to play smash my football simply because they have a tough-minded head coach in D'Amico Ryan, and I think he's going to have those guys ready to play. So when I say I think he has an opportunity to get all things together in that Houston game, that's just to say if we put our starting offense on the field, we should go out on that field and come out with a win, regardless is if it is a learning process or not. And so I think at this point we're the most talented team in that contest. So that's what I mean by he can simply wait to Houston to get out on the field. I'm not worried about him getting injured if he plays tonight. I'm not worried about him getting injured in this season at all because I think he'll have an opportunity to get rid of that ball more quickly. I think the offensive line started to come together closer to the end of the season. And I think that having a top 10 run game, which I think the Baltimore Ravens should have, if everybody's healthy, line is healthy, that kind of thing, a top 10 run game will help compensate for what the line is not able to do in a new passing attack. In fact, I think the run game is going to be integral in this season's success. So that's my initial thoughts. What did we learn, man, this off season? Well, I think that we learned that the Baltimore Ravens went all in with a budget, right? I think that's the best way to say it. They had a goal that we heard that they were going to revamp the wide receiver room. They did that with adding Nelson Aguilar, brought in Odell Beckham, then they drafted Zay. So I think they did that. Um, they added some defensive pieces. Um, Not a lot of name brand guys, but they did add some defensive pieces, added some depth, and I think that depth is going to be super important, especially with some of the injuries we have at certain positions. So I certainly think they went all in with with the budget, right? Kind of like the old saying, "Balling on a budget." That's what kind of the Ravens did this offseason. The other thing I learned about the Baltimore Ravens is that they still have a tendency to be slow to make decisions. And we will deal with that in another video that I have to talk about John Harbaugh and EDC. But I think it took too long to get Lamar Jackson done. I think it took too long to, you know, upgrade the wide receiver room. I think it took too long for to deal with whatever was going on with J.K. Dobbins. So I think some things lingered too long, and then some of these injury issues that we hear about post the injury, we hear that the injuries were lingering, and I think that sometimes the Ravens need to just deal with the injury when it happens, cause the guy to sit out, rest him, have surgery when it's necessary, or whatever it was. I think that if Marlon Humphrey could have got surgery 2 weeks earlier, his timetable to get back would be 2 weeks earlier. But I'm not even really worried about Marlon Humphrey being out. I think we have enough to sustain. Not to be great, not to be elite, but to sustain until he gets back. And not that he's the savior for the defense anyway. So um now let's deal with roster construction. Okay. I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to build the roster this way. And my assumption is due to how they built their roster last year. Granted, offensively, it's going to be a different schema, but I think that how they build their roster is going to be very, very simple, uh, simple and practical to um, the needs of the offense. I don't think it's going. I don't think they're going to make it too complex. And so, uh, if we take a look at last year's roster, I won't show you anything on screen. I'm just talking about last year's roster. Um, the Baltimore Ravens started the season with 9 offensive linemen. I think they start this season with 8 offensive linemen. Not because we don't need 9, but I think we start with 8 minus Ben Cleveland. I think the offensive linemen that we keep, of course, are Ronnie Stanley. This is from left to right. Ronnie Stanley, Simpson, Lindenbaum, Zeitler, Morgan Moses. Backups are Daniel Falele, Patrick McCarry, and um, Salah. I think they only go with 8, and then I think they'll stock the practice squad with at least 3 or 4 guys, 3 or 4 offensive linemen, tackles, guards, and a backup center. Now they may surprise me, but I think they keep 8, and the reason why I think they only keep 8, that's to make room for somebody else on the roster. I think because of injury statuses and things like that, they'll have to keep a few guys that they're eventually going to put on the PUP list, and so they have to be on the roster, or they lose that guy for the entire season, or they have to be on the roster when the season starts. Um, no, wait a minute. They have to be on the roster at the point of cut down, or they'll lose that guy for the whole season. Something along that line. If anybody know what I'm talking about, by all means, drop that into the comment section. Okay, so I think it's 8 offensive linemen. If we go outside a little bit, tight ends, I think they keep 4. I think Travis Bacalic has done enough, and I think he'll put on a solid performance tonight. I think he's done enough to earn him a roster spot, which means somebody else somewhere has to be edged out. So I think those tight ends are going to be Andrews, likely Kolar, and Bacalic, because I think he's done enough. He's a big, strong guy. He's shown some power. He's shown some hands. He's shown some above average athleticism. So I think he's earned himself a spot. I think that if the Ravens try and slide him onto the practice squad, I think they're making a mistake because he won't be there. Somebody will put him in that 53rd man spot on their active roster for sure. All right. We go out a little bit further and we go to the wide receiver room. I think that tonight, Tylan Wallace has an opportunity to cast out any doubts on if he has earned that 6th spot. I think he'll put up about 3 to 4 or 5 catches, 30 or 40 yards, and maybe even a touchdown. I think he performs well tonight and closes the door on Laquan Treadwell and anybody else who could have been approaching. So I think it's 6 wide receivers. Those wide receivers, of course, are Odell, Zay, Bateman, Duvernay, Tylan Wallace, like I said, and also Nelson Aguilar. Those are the 6 wide receivers. Uh, when we jump back to the backfield, I think they keep 4 running backs. Those running backs are, excuse me for that noise, those running backs are J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. And I think that the competition has almost became even with the veteran Melvin Gordon and Keaton Mitchell. Now, both of these guys were kind of banged up coming into this week from last week's game. And so I don't even know if either one will play. And if neither one plays, I don't know who runs the ball tonight. But if Keaton Mitchell is healthy, and he gets an opportunity to carry the ball 7, 8 times, catch the ball 3 or 4 times, I think he will put on enough of a show to edge out Melvin Gordon and send Melvin Gordon to the practice squad if he's eligible. So I think it's 4 running backs. Again, Dobbins, Edwards, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell. I especially like to see Keaton Mitchell get on this roster because he offers something that none of the other running backs offer with his quickness and his speed. And then I think they keep Patrick Ricard. I know Ben Mason was leading when Patrick Ricard was out. He almost made you forget about Patrick Ricard. But we have not seen or heard much of Ben Mason since preseason has actually started. I'm not sure what has happened to him. If anybody knows anything about Ben Mason, by all means, drop that into the comment section. But I think we've seen Patrick Ricard on some different plays. He caught a pass or two last week. And because of his athleticism, he can play multiple positions: offensive line, tight end, and fullback. And so I think that value and versatility keeps him on this roster. So I think that's how the offensive roster is constructed. Let me do the numbers really quick so I can make sure I got a number in my head. 8 offensive linemen, 4 tight ends, that's 12, 6 wide receivers, that is 18, 4 running backs, 22, 1 fullback, and then that's 23. And then I think they only keep 2 quarterbacks. I think those quarterbacks will be Lamar Jackson and Josh Johnson, because I think the Tyler Huntley injury is more serious than we previously thought. So if anybody knows anything about the Tyler Huntley injury situation, by all means drop that into the comments section, because I will acknowledge I'm speaking out of ignorance. I have not read any recent reports, did not check. I'm just making my commentary based on what I knew from the last time I read information, which would have probably been Thursday. So, but I think that Josh Johnson has done enough in this preseason to kind of validate himself as being a quality backup for Lamar Jackson. He performed really, really well in last week's first half, moving the ball up and down on the field, scoring some touchdowns, and really should have had probably another scoring drive if the Isaiah Likely uh, injury doesn't set back the Ravens' progress, and then the non-converted 3rd and 1 by Melvin Gordon doesn't derail that drive. So I thought Josh Johnson proved himself very well, and I think that he'll have an opportunity to continue to validate his place as the backup, especially since Tyler Huntley, I don't believe, will play tonight. So this is not to say Tyler Huntley's not capable, but I think Josh Johnson is in that lead for that backup spot, especially because he's healthy. And so that leaves us with 25 after the 2 quarterbacks have been added. And let's jump over to the defense side of the ball. I think in the trenches, the Baltimore Ravens keep 5. Um, they kept 6 last year, but I think they keep 5 this year. Those 5 are Metabuke, Broderick Washington, Michael Pierce, um, Travis Jones, and Brent Irvine. I think those are the 5 that they keep, unless something happens injury-wise tonight and they have to change course. If we jump outside to the outside linebacker position, there's a huge question mark with Tyus Bowser's health. If anybody knows anything about Tyus Bowser, his injury status, when they expect him back, that kind of thing, by all means, drop that into the comment section as well. But I think to start this season, they'll have 4. Those 4 will be Jadeveon Clowney, David Ajabo, Odafe Owe, and Tavius Robinson. And I think that should be sufficient um, to get through the first couple of weeks, especially because the interior linebacker room is so stocked, and Malik Harrison sometimes doubles as an edge rusher. I think that would give us enough support. Still, we don't have that dominant guy, but we haven't had that dominant guy in a number of years. But hopefully, this cast of players will be able to do something that's sustainable until we get um, more adept at rushing the passer. So 5 plus 4 is 9. We jump to the interior linebacker position. We got Queen, Smith, Trenton Simpson, the rookie, Phillips, and Malik Harrison, who I previously mentioned. And I think we keep those 5 in that interior linebacker position, and that takes us up to 14. I think the Baltimore Ravens keep 4 at the safety position. Those 4 is Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton, Brandon Stevens, although he doubles as a cornerback sometimes, and Geno Stone, who is back and healthy. And that takes us to 18, which means the Baltimore Ravens will keep 7 cornerbacks. And these 7 that I mentioned right now probably are the most viable options, but that doesn't mean somebody doesn't get released or a trade doesn't happen to change this position construction. But I think right now, Ronald Darby, Rocky Sin, Darius Washington are your three starters. Behind those guys is JAD, Arthur Millette, Kevin Seymour, and as of right now, Kablu Kelly. I think those are the five. And I put Kablu Kelly on over Daryl Worley only because Kablu Kelly is um, a draft pick. I think they keep 7 just to have adequate depth. Um, and so that those are the guys. So um, what do you think about the roster construction? Do you think it is that many at each position? Do you have somebody else on the roster that I didn't put on? Do you see a trade happening? I've definitely heard some rumors. I know that the Baltimore Ravens took a peek at Trey Lance, I guess to improve the talent at the backup quarterback position. I think it would cost too much to try to um, get Trey Lance from the 49ers simply because the 49ers gave up so much to get Trey Lance. But I think the 49ers are about ready to move on, especially with Purdy and Sam Darnold ahead of him. Seems like ahead of him on that depth chart. So don't know what no don't know what will happen with that. But a trade will certainly change this roster construction. But that's my take as of right now. So listen, let me know what you guys want me to know, man. I can't wait to tonight see who does what, see who stands out. I'm definitely got my eyes on Mitchell, Vakalik, and Arthur Millette. I want to see what those guys do, who stands out, who balls out, and if Tylen Wallace will continue to make a forward trajectory. I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM. We're out.